Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Thank you for being here. If you're new, thank you for joining us. My name is Paola Guthrie from Creating Purpose with Pau, and I welcome you to the Spanglish World Network and Heart Network on Single TV channels 250 and 251. Please remember to download Single TV on the respective app stores. When you download it, please rate it and let us know how we're doing our job. The Zingo TV app is totally free. You can find it in Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, Fire TV Stick, Roku Sticks, and all smart TVs from 2016 and forward. Today, I am so excited and I feel so grateful and joyful to introduce Casandra Ferguson. She is the CEO of Elevation Global Media Group. She is also the co-author of this beautiful book that is called Couples Determined to Make Marriage Great. She is a coach, a trainer, not only in relationships, but also in finances and leadership. So thank you for being here today, Casandra.
Thank you for having me, Paula. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. I appreciate it.
Oh, I'm so, like I say, I'm really grateful and joyful to have you on the show today. So, based on your story, you know, I enjoy reading this book and reading your story. So please share with us what would you advise, a marriage couple right now who are at the point of looking for the exit signs because they're trying to bail out.
Yeah. Well, the first thing I would say is, first of all, find out what the root or the problem is, because you can't address anything unless you know what the real problem is, right?
Yes.
And then once you do find out that problem, you need to pray about it. And you also need to seek wise counsel. And I say that in the book. You need to seek wise counsel. That's either a pastor or another counselor, someone that can stand in agreement with you. Because the thing is this, when, when we go through anything, there's either we want it or we don't, right? Either you're going to fight for it or you're not. So immediately recognize who is really bringing the attack in your relationship. And then you also need to think about, if I make this decision, who will it affect? You have children, it's going to affect the children, it's going to affect families. So you have to look at the whole picture, and then you have to do the work to repair the relationship. I heard one time, I don't know if you guys heard of Family Life. Well, it's a major family ministry, and one of my guests one time said, and I use it all the time: when you are married, it is a covenant, not a contract. A covenant that you made between God and your spouse. With a contract, of course, we all know contracts, it may have an expiration date on it. But a covenant, when you stand before God and make that covenant commitment, that is a commitment for life. So you got to work at it. And this is why I always say this: before you get married, know what's involved, know your spouse, know what they like, what they don't like, and of course communicate, because we cannot always assume anything.
Yes, I agree with you. Communication is a key.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we assume
Yep.
that the husband, like in my case, like that my husband should know what I want or
Yeah.
he should know what I like because he should know me.
Right. Right.
But through the years, is I have discovered that it's a
Mm-hmm.
journey. We're getting to know each other because these stages of life are changing.
Mm-hmm.
So we're growing, we're adapting. So it's communication is a key. Like say, this is what I mean,
Right.
and try to be as clear as possible with love, with love.
Right.
That
And that communication is so key, because actually I have 4 children and 3 of them are married, right? 3 of them are married. And that's one of the main things we say: it's communicate, communicate, communicate. Even when you're upset about something, or you feel like, if you have a question, why did he do that? Or why did he go there? Or why is he, holding back from me? Communicate. Let's not try to make our spouses mind readers, because they're not. Communication is really a key, and then working on it, seeing the bigger picture, because again, my pastor always says this. He said it years ago, and I said in the book, the whole is more important than the half. And if you look at your relationship and your family as the whole, then you yourself, which is the half, then let me get this half of me together. Let me not
Yes.
stop being mad. Let me really understand what's happening here, and let me work on this.
I love it. I mean, you're opening this conversation to restore and repair
Mm,
because it's possible.
it
You
is.
know, it is possible. I want to invite our beautiful audience to take a look at this book. Is Couples Determined to Make Marriage Great. There is different stories that you might identify with, and they teach you their story, how they restore and they repair.
Mm,
Because yes, they have restore and they repair because there is not, it's a journey.
mm-hmm,
It is a journey, and we have our parents as examples. We might have our uncles and our aunts, but
mm-hmm,
they have their own journey. So choosing the best out of their marriages and trying to apply it in our own my work may not work, but it is a journey, like you were saying, of communication, and we're not perfect. So
mm-hmm,
sometimes, we are here to cause a little bit of pain, but that's how we grow.
mm-hmm.
And that's how we also learn to forgive.
That's right.
Yeah. So
Right.
I think,
And that's a part of keeping short accounts, forgiveness, right? Say, recognize and taking ownership when you do something wrong or when you say something wrong, and taking ownership of that, because it's also about having empathy. And there's a difference between sympathy and empathy, of course. Having empathy and having a compassionate heart with your mate. And then when you do something wrong, being willing to own up to that mistake, being willing to not, and then being willing to get it right. Because, like you said, a marriage, me and my husband got married very young. I was 18 years old. And he was, what was 22, 23. And so we grew up together. So I came from a home that had a broken marriage. So my mother and my father divorced. And at one point in my marriage, I automatically thought that me and him would divorce after 10 years, because that's what I saw. But then, like you talked about those positive marriages. So that was my mother and father. But then there was the relationship that my grandmother and grandfather had. They stayed together, right? And then God began to put me around other couples as we got involved in a marriage ministry at church that focused on building marriages and had marriages that last. So you can come from a broken home, or you can come from a family that may not. So it's all about changing your mind, because remember, again, I said, oh, I just know, we may end up getting a divorce, but not realizing that, like you said, there will be problems. Now, it's how you handle the problem that makes the difference, because everyone have it. It's not no walk tiptoe through the tulips all the time. It ain't rosy all the time. But you have to be willing to put the work in and do the work.
yes, do the work. Yes. And find out, like you said at the beginning, the source of the problem, the root of the problem, what's
Yeah,
causing this issue, this friction between the marriage. If you grew apart, okay, so how can fall in love again?
right.
And yes, I love that. Restore and repair. Do the work. You have to be willing to do the work. Just like anything else, we have to, invest that time, invest that love. One thing that I wanted to add that just came to my mind or my heart is that sometimes we value our significant other by what they do and not by who they are, and that's a lesson I had to learn, and
Mm.
we'll talk more about it in a little bit. How do we recognize the blame game whenever we begin to blame one another, and we just say, well, it's his fault, or it's her fault. If she would have done this, then I would have been ahead. Or, how can we recognize and get out of that game?
Well, when you're in a heated, let's just say, discussion, you and your spouse are in a heated discussion or disagreement, the first thing you would do is look at whose fault it is, right? This is why I'm feeling this way, or this is why this happened. And then you have to kind of recognize, like, okay, we're spending so much time sitting here fussing about who did it, but we're still not getting anywhere. We're not coming up with a solution. And then you really have to recognize who is bringing this feeling that you want to constantly keep arguing and keep fussing about. And it's the enemy. The enemy wants you to stay in a place of disagreement. He wants you to stay in a place of not solving or resolving the issue. And if we look at a scripture, and Ephesians 6 in the Bible, it says, we wrestle not against flesh and blood. So when the attack is coming, that you are not really wrestling against your spouse at that moment, because the ultimate purpose of the enemy is to bring division and divisiveness. So when you recognize that all I need to do is take ownership for what I did, forgive him for what he did, and let's come to this place where we are going to restore and realize who is really bringing the attack and what he wants to do, because it says it in John 10:10, the enemy comes to kill, steal, and destroy. And that word destroy means to be no more. So if you recognize that someone is trying to separate and to destroy your family so it can be no more, then your whole perspective on a disagreement really change. Oh, it's not as bad as I thought. That I was making a small thing out of a big thing. Why was I even arguing like that? Why did I even get so heated about that? Why was I even not speaking to you? And it usually goes back to, you want to be right. You want to be right, and you don't want to be wrong. So you want to be right, and you want that person to feel the pain they have delivered, or you want to be the last person standing and say, I told you I was right. But it's not about that. It's about togetherness. It's about oneness. When God joined you together, you came together as one under him.
Beautiful. Yes. And here we go back. It's like, what do we want? And what's the root that's causing it? And what do we want for our marriage? Where do we want to be in 6 months, in a year? So if this is causing friction, is it taking us to that next level, or is it taking us back 2, 3 levels if we have to start all over again? So yes, thank you. Restore that relationship. So if we're feeling like we're having an argument, a disappointment, then analyze, that it's not him, is that is the enemy causing the issue.
Yeah.
So realign to the
Right.
relationship.
Right. And that's what I say in that chapter too, that, when we realize who is really bringing the trying to cause the separation, because that's what he wants to do, is destroy.
Okay.
Because that's one of God's, governments, is marriage and family, right? That's one of the 7 mountains that rule society, is the family origin, right? And if we realize how important the family origin is to God's kingdom, and we treat it the way God wants us to treat it, and respond to those arguments like, okay, yeah, we may say we're upset or get mad, but at that moment, it's another scripture says, do not go to sleep upset.
Yeah.
Do not go to sleep angry. And I must confess, I have went to sleep angry. And you know what happens? I wake up angry. I wake up angry still with that. I said, oh, and so that's the spirit that's trying to take over or come into your marriage, because you still wake up the same way you felt. But what I want to tell you, Paul, is one thing I noticed couples that really understand the power of agreement and coming together. And really, if they get in a disagreement or something happens that comes, life happens in their marriage, I notice the couples that really want to work at it, so they'll take ownership for what they did. Each of them will take ownership. Then, in that marriage will be restored. But I also understand when it's only one of the spouse that wants to work at it, and the other, and then they don't normally come together because it has to be a two. It has to be both of you willing to work at it. You have to both want to work at it. You have to both have to repent. You have to both take ownership of what you did. But if it's just one, it's a little bit hard. It's a little bit hard.
Our youngest viewers are 18 years old. So
Mhm.
beautiful message for all our youth right here
Yeah.
that might not be married yet. Like, because one of the things that Cassandra said is like, make sure that you know who you're marrying. I would advise, because I talked to another co-author of the book, and she'll be talking about pre-marriage counseling, how important it is. So
Hmm.
for our beautiful audience, that's here, that is young and they're thinking about getting married, I hope you're enjoying this information so that that foundation of that marriage is solid.
Hmm.
In the book, this beautiful book that is called Couples Determined to Make Marriage Great, you and your husband talk about living up to mistakes in truth. Could you please share with us a couple of examples of how we can begin to live up to our mistakes in truth? And I know you kind of dive into it a little bit.
Hmm. So, my husband is the saver. I have to laugh because he
Good.
really would hold on. But I'm the spender. And in the beginning of our marriage, I was the spender. I love nice clothes. And let me tell you, I could get paid on Friday and be broke by Friday night. And that's not good, right? But my husband, he helps balance me. And I used to get angry with him when he used to didn't want to spend or do, but not realizing that God was using him to help me, because he was like the sandpaper for me, my spending, right? But God was using him to help me to understand why I should not just live for the moment, and how he taught me how to build for the future with our finances. And I was in then I got into finances. I got into banking, and I was in banking for over 20 years, and then I began to teach, and which I still do teach financial literacy to young people in Baltimore in the school systems. So it was his him being the opposite of what I was. And I'm so glad he wasn't a spender like me, because I don't think we'll have what we have now. We don't. But I had to realize and take ownership of my problem, and then realize that God gave me my husband to me to help me to balance, because we can still spend, but now it's more like I budget more. I check for discounts and all that, but realizing that in order for us to be able to provide for our family, we had to come to an agreement on our finances, because I love nice things. But now I'm different on how I spend. I do budget. I do look at ways that I can get a better deal, or and talk to him about it. We talk more about finances and things we can't do and things we need to do. So that, and finances is one of the most. I mean, that is something that a lot of marriages from, because they don't want to communicate. They don't want to talk. They don't want to sit down. They don't want to come into agreement, because I want this, and why, and even if it's your own money, because I make my own money, but you are still one, and you still have to come together in agreement to build for the future, not just for the moment. You are building for your future. We now have 3 grandchildren. 3. We have, in the Bible says, a righteous man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. And we can't tell them to do something that we're not doing. We got to be the examples.
Yes, I love that. And I agree with you. Finances is one of the big,
Yeah.
it's one of the issues in marriage.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, I'm like you. I'm the spender too. you
Like
know,
most
and
things. Yeah.
and and I remember being immature. It was like, no, but it has to be this way. It's like
Yeah.
I also contribute.
Right. Yeah. And it
The,
wasn't and it wasn't always a nice, pretty conversation that I would
yes,
have, because I wanted to spend. I wanted that. And why can't I have that?
yes,
And then and you'll get real spiritual about it too sometimes. Oh, well, God said that I can have anything that I ask or pray for. No, come on now.
yes, yes. It's like it's something I had to grow up to.
Yeah,
And here we go. What do we want? Where are we
right,
heading?
right.
And we have to contribute right now and invest right now to whatever we want in
For
the
the
future.
future. Yes.
Yes.
For the
Could
future.
Yes, could you share with our audience, please, what this like the story, and I know you share most of it, but what is like the main message that you and your husband are trying to deliver from the story that you guys wrote on this book?
The main message is to tell people how powerful it is when you and your husband or spouse come together in agreement, because that was actually the scripture, Psalms 133. How truly wonderful and delightful it is to see brothers and sisters living together in sweet unity. It is as precious as a sacred scented oil flowing from the head of the high priest, Aaron, dripping down upon his beard and running all the way down to the hem of his priestly robe. This harmony can be compared to the dew dripping from Mount Hermon, which flows down upon the hills of Zion. Indeed, that is where Yahweh has decreed his blessings will be found, the promise of life forever. So, just to see that when we begin to walk together in unity, there is a blessing that is decreed upon you in your marriage. When you're walking not in harmony, you're going the opposite direction and you're not talking things out, or you're not reconciling, you're not trying to resolve. And that division is there, that divisiveness is there. Then that means that your marriage is headed in another direction, and it's not a blessed marriage. A blessed marriage walks in harmony. I'm not saying that we all the time agree, but we do agree on this, that we are going to come together, we're going to pray together, we're going to resolve the conflict, and we are going to be under the blessed of the Lord. So that's Psalms 133. It's in the New Living Translation version. Living in harmony, living in peace, and how powerful it is when you begin to come together. And I would even challenge your viewers, try it out for 30 days. Try it
Yeah.
out and watch God doesn't open up a window over your marriage of blessings that you won't have room enough to receive. Try it out.
Thank you. Yes, like you said, talk to each other, pray with each other, and that will lead into
Yes.
harmony, peace.
Yes. Yes. To live in harmony and peace. But at first, the number one is you definitely have to identify the problem and then
Yeah.
pray for the solution. And not only that, when you're dealing with finances, not only do you have to pray for a solution, but God may need to download a strategy. He may need a strategy how to get out and how to be restored and how to be in a place. And sometimes the strategy may not be what you want to hear. He may say sell and downsize. He may say get rid of. But it's all about one. The whole is more important than the half. And your family legacy is more important than you giving up a, an item that does not have eternal value to have your marriage in a place where God can bless it.
Thank you. Yes, the whole is a lot better than the half. I love that. And tell us more about, well, before I continue, where can we find you? If there's somebody in our audience saying, hey, I love what she has to say, I need more of it, where can we find you?
Well, you can find me on all social media sites, Elevation Global Media Group. We also have a radio station, Elevate Your Life Talk Radio. Um, or you can go to any of those Elevation Global Media Group. You can find us on Instagram. You can find us on Facebook. If you need to send us a message, you can go to our website, www.elevation global media group. You can send us a message. We always get messages from people that say, how can, we get an interview or whatever, you know, or how can we find out more? But you can find me there. You
That's
know,
awesome.
we're doing some great things over here in the East Coast.
Yay!
In the East Coast, yes.
And you have a radio station. What is your radio station about? Like your program?
Well, basically, it's about talks like these. It's
Oh,
about giving people sound advice, great advice on what they can do in life. We have several talk shows. We also play music on our radio station. It's a full blown 24/7 radio station. You can download it on Apple, Google. You can ask Alexa in your home, Alexa, play Elevate Your Life Talk Radio. We're also on TuneIn. So you can get it various ways.
awesome. That's awesome. If any of our viewers right now are enjoying this conversation, if you know of anyone that could benefit from this conversation, please share it. Go to my YouTube channel, Paola Guthrie, like it, share it, because it helps to go to other people as well.
Mhm.
That's just how the system works, right? They have to like it, they have to click on the little bell. So if you're liking this conversation, please share it with someone that you think that can benefit from it. So, on your experience of counseling people or coaching people about finances, what have you seen? Like, how do you seen their marriage flourish? Because, like we're talking about, it's important to be on the same page about finances.
Well, you know what I've seen? I've seen that people usually already have the answer. They just don't want to do it.
Okay.
They usually already have the answer if they need to stop spending, if they need to sell some things, or they need to downsize. But what it is usually that they don't want to do it because they have some people have a mindset, oh, I can't get this again, or this can't happen again. But that's not true. God can always restore. He can always give it to you again. You just have to trust him for this moment and listen to the instructions he's giving you for this moment. And what you give up, one of my girlfriends used to say, what you give up now, God will bring it back to you greater.
Oh, that's a good phrase. And another phrase that comes to me that I read on the book is like, I don't know if it comes from your story, but it says choose faith over fear.
Yes.
Choose faith,
Yeah.
faith over fear. So if you're going through this transaction where uh, you might have to sell a few things to downsize, or maybe you need to stop buying certain, nice items just to get ahead of the game, choose faith over fear.
Because we know fear paralyzes you, or fear makes you think that you're not going to be able to have this again. Fear, they say that fear is false evidence appearing real, right? So it's false information that you are getting, but you can't have fear and faith. You got to either have faith or fear. You can't have them both. So, and we choose to walk by faith and not by sight. And so having the faith will basically catapult you into a whole nother realm to see things a lot different than what they are, and begin to trust God at a whole nother level than what you can see in the natural.
Yes, and faith leads to harmony and peace, like you were talking
Yes,
about a while ago.
harmony.
Harmony.
That oil dripping, right? that oil dripping. You want that oil
Yes.
dripping over your marriage, over you,
Yes.
because
Yeah.
that's what it's about. It's about you, and you really examining yourself, so you can be like, you want to be a not only a sweet fragrance in God's nostril, but in your family and your marriage, and everyone that comes into your circle.
Yes, we can serve, more when we
Right,
feel that harmony, that peace.
right, right.
Yes. Yes. I
And
mean,
you can sleep
being
better too.
yeah, yes. Being like right now I'm a science teacher,
Mhm.
and those when those kids are trying to test because they're trying to find their identity, it's like I have to have the harmony to love them,
Yeah.
like to see the interpretation of like, oh, they just need some extra love. But
Mm.
in order for me to love them, I have to feel the harmony. and
Yes.
and yes, it's like whenever we feel the harmony, the peace, we're able to serve others at way different level. So
Hmm. And
yes.
that's so seeing that, like you said, and when you were talking, Paula, I thought about, you said the kids, but if we can see each person or individual like that, really seeing that all they want is love, all they want to do is feel loved, all they want to do is feel appreciated, then I think that will give a whole different perspective, and it will cause harmony to come into your space. It will cause unity to come into your space. And when that comes into your space, of course, the blessings will come as well.
Yes, and sometimes it only takes a smile.
Right,
You
right,
know,
right.
sometimes it's just if you share your smile, you're already blessing the other person. It's
That's
feeling,
right.
oh,
That's it.
yes, yes. So I hope our beautiful audience are enjoying this beautiful conversation to establish, stronger relationships with our children, our spouses, and everybody that you have around you.
Right. And not even taking, like I said, my childhood was not, a childhood that exemplified harmony, between my mom and my dad. But I made a choice. I made a choice to be the change agent. I made a choice to experience things that I may not have experienced, or give my children an experience they did not have, that I did not have. So I think that when we make the choice to be different and do different, you're going to get the results from that. You're going to get the results from that.
Yes. So, being a financial educator, what could be a few steps that our audience, could get started to be on the same page, financially speaking?
Well, the first thing you do is that you need to write down all of your expenses. You need to begin to, and this may also begin with, let's just say you want to do a week's journal. Write down everything that you spend money on for the whole entire week. Then at the end of that week, look to see how much money you spent. Let's just say you may eat out too much. And this is what I do with the kids. And they said I have them write out all what they do. A lot of them like Chipotle, right? So I begin
I'd
to
like
tell
it too.
them, I know, and me too. I begin to tell them, how about you create a Chipotle at home? You get the corn, you get the sour cream, you get the lettuce, you get the chicken, you get the salsa, right? You get all that, and then compare how much it actually costs you to make that. And you probably have some leftovers versus you going to spend $10 a day. So begin to look at your spending habit, is what it's about. Look at where to see where your money's going. And then from there, begin to cut back on some things. And through that, say, if you have a goal, say you want to buy, you want to buy a house, need a new car, or you want to travel. And it's okay to do that. But begin by cutting back your spending habits, and then putting that money towards the goal that you have. It could be a goal to go to school. It could be a goal to take a class. It could be a goal, to get certified. It could be a goal. But in order to get, I heard this said before also, you may have to give up. And that is how you begin the process of getting on track. But you can't address what you're not willing to confront and what you're not willing to see on paper, and then take ownership. Hey, I do have a spending problem. I do spend too much money there. And from there, that will begin the process of restoration and the problem of being replenished. You know, you will begin that process of getting back on track once you do that.
I love that how you share having a goal, having an inspiration,
Yeah.
something you're working for.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah, so have you, because we all have goals. We all, right now I'm going back to school, to finish,
Yes.
getting a degree. I only needed a little more credits in communication, right?
Uh-huh.
So going back to finish that, because life happens. You had children, you had babies, all
Yeah.
that.
Yes.
But my goal has always been to finish what I started, and to finish, and that's what I'm doing. But I have to cut back on some things. I have to, be able to give up some things in order to receive the greater. And the greater is the degree, right?
Yes.
So you may have to give up something to receive the greater, but that greater is going to be far more valuable than me wanting to have some chocolate chip cookies and ice cream or Starbucks, every morning.
Yes.
Right.
Thank you. Yes, have an inspiration. And I know one of your recommendations is celebrate at the end. I think I believe that I read that.
Celebrate at the
Yes.
end. Always celebrate when you accomplish anything. That could be anything you accomplish. You should, because number one, the first part of that you're talking about, I said, what is the problem? Address the problem, praying about the problem. And then when you become, when you're overcomer, you should celebrate. Oh, wow, thank you, Jesus. I was able to get out of this. Yes, thank you. So you should celebrate, everything that you're able to accomplish. Absolutely.
Yes. So, what was your biggest learning from living the challenging and finances in your life? Like, what was
You
the
know,
biggest learning?
that I really don't have to have it right now. How you have to, really,
Yeah.
because you figured, that you have to have it. Oh, I need to get this. But my biggest learning is that if it's meant for me, I'll get it.
Yeah.
And I really don't have to have it right now. I can wait until I can really afford it. Wait until, me and my husband take care of some other things, around the house. And I really don't, I will be okay if I don't have it right now. I will be okay.
That's beautiful. Yes. Like, we don't, I don't have to have it
Right,
right now. Is have the harmony, like in peace. Whereas,
right,
like,
right.
I don't have to have it right now.
You really don't have to have it right now. You can wait.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
can wait, because if it's meant for you to have right now, you'll have it. But if you have to wait for it, just wait for it. And and it probably will have a lot more meaning and purpose if you wait for it.
Yes. I love that. Yes. We should have a picture of you with the smile and said, I don't have to have it right now. I wrote it down. It's true. And
Right,
teach our little ones. It's like, you don't have to have it right now. It's like, you can wait. You can
right,
think about it. And,
right,
and if you think that's the right choice, then do it later. Like, teach our children the same. They
right,
don't have to have it right now.
right. Because if you even kind of give us that analogy of a child, to how we could kick and scream and we want it and we think we need it. But no, you don't have to have this right now. You can wait. You can wait till the right time. You can wait, and it may be cheaper. You may get a
Yeah.
better deal if you wait.
Yes. I love that. And what has been your biggest learning from writing this book?
Well, from writing this book,
Uh,
um, what I really loved was the stories from the couples and what it says. We are determined to make marriage great. And a lot of times the news or, data or statistics will say this percentage is getting divorced, but you really have some couples out here that want to make marriage great. You really have couples out here that still wants to have a legacy for their family, for their children to see. You still have couples out here that want to be an example. You still have couples that out here that are willing to share their story, not ashamed, because this is what we used to be. But look at us now. We have overcome that part. So that has been just such a reward for me to see that there were so many couples that fought through some things and yet they're still standing. The enemy came to kill, steal, and destroy, to devour, but they stood the ground because Jesus came to give them life and that more abundantly. And they're still standing. They're still standing.
yes, and I would recommend our beautiful audience to order the book. It's not very expensive.
Mm-hmm.
I order mine on Amazon, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to show it to you again. Couples determined to make marriage great. There's
Mm-hmm.
about 15 different stories,
Mm-hmm.
and you all can benefit from it if you're trying to nurture that uh, your marriage relationship, whatever stage in your life you are. Uh, I think it's amazing project. I mean, it's like what a blessing having 15 different stories that some of them talk about finances, other talk about what, whenever there was a big change in their family with one of their kids, and then sometimes we grieve, separately. We just want to be alone. But if you're married, if you're committed to it, there's a story that shows how it was hard, but the couple stayed together. And there's different stories that it could inspire you to grow in that area of our life, because I believe whenever we are truly one, like we practice to be one, the husband and the wife, then our children are watching.
Mm-hmm.
And I pray for my descendants, like I
Mm-hmm. That's right.
is like to guide my children so that they
Mhm.
can guide their children.
That's right. Yeah.
So
And as you were talking, Paula, um, we can. Well, let's go back to spending. We can spend a lot of money on getting car repairs, um, making sure our hair is nice, getting our nails done, pedicures, getting massages. But people won't spend money on the maintenance, because I've heard you mention maintenance or maintain. People won't spend money on maintaining or improving their marriage or themselves. Like, we could spend it, we could get the latest and the greatest iPhones, cell phones, but what about investing in your
yeah.
marriage? Invest in your marriage more than you invest in those other things, because if you get to the point where you are having all these disagreements, you're fussing all the time, and you may need to seek I talk about wise counsel. You may need to seek a therapist, or you may need to seek a counsel, right? But still you're investing to be better, to make your marriage better. And I will encourage your viewers, if there's a problem, you notice a problem, number one, start investing in your marriage. Buy books, listen to programs like this, attend conferences, take a little ride or cheap getaway somewhere, but do it. Just do it.
Yes, I mean, thanks to that journey, when I started investing in self-development, reading books, I my marriage improved, because I
Yes.
find out, like I said at the beginning, is like I was valuing my husband not because of who he was, but
Mm.
because what he was doing. Like if he would know mow the yard when I wanted to, I was mad.
Mm.
So I was not letting him be. I was valuing him by what he was doing versus,
Who?
God created him, and seeing him for who he was,
Yes.
his virtues.
Right.
So sometimes we get trapped into our everyday routine, things that have to get done. And if they don't get things done, and sometimes we're like, well, we do more than they do. And you
Mhm.
begin to have a little accounting, paper where it's like,
Yeah.
oh, I I do the laundry, I cook, I clean, and then what do they do? And sometimes, I was on that stage. So if you are in that stage of that relationship where you're counting what he does versus what you're doing, and you have way more points because you do more, it's like it's not a good
No.
solid foundation for a relationship. i'm
Right.
past i'm past that. Uh so it's doable. It's doable. I don't think it's not the most perfect relationship, but it's solid. I'm proud of it. And anyone that is struggling is like, know that there is restoration out there. If you find out the root of the problem that you guys are having, like Cassandra was sharing with us. She mentioned those two beautiful words at the beginning. It was restore and repair. Pray together, to find out that solution. And yes, yes, yes. So, Cassandra, in your very personal point of view, what is the most needed lesson that humanity needs to learn for us to level up? And I'm talking from, like, spiritually speaking, not from an ego perspective, but more in, like, where we can truly grow in better humanity.
Number one is because there's so much social media and so much out here that we see daily. The number one thing is we cannot compare ourselves or our marriages to someone else's. And we all know that people may put the beautiful things, right, to make you think that they have this perfect marriage. And then a couple of months later, they're divorced or they have another spouse, and you be like, what happened? So never compare or try to, you can model your marriage out of someone like, I can model my marriage out of my bishop, but not to the point where I'm trying to be exactly like them. But I'm looking at some key factors like his wife really listens to him. His wife really supports him in what he does. So those are just some key points, but do not try to mimic or compare your marriage or yourself to someone else because you are unique. Your marriage is unique because what happens if you get caught in that comparison game, you are headed in the road of destruction. Your marriage is your marriage. God created each one of us to be unique and different. Yes, you could take pointers, you could take communication pointers. Oh, I see how, she really supports her husband, take care of her husband, take care of the house, take care of the children. Those are good pointers. But when you are constantly trying to build your marriage or your life around to be a clone, that's exhausting because you can't do that. Do not compare or try to be a copycat. Be original. Hear what God is saying about your marriage. Do what God tells you to do with your marriage. Do not hold your husband to another man's status. Do not do that. Your husband is not him. Let your husband be who God created him to be.
Yeah, and our husbands are here to teach us a lesson.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's like they are here to make us better and grow. Like you were saying early, your husband was able to guide you in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Finances, we have to better our finances.
Mm-hmm.
So they are here to make us stronger. They are who they are because, like you said, God created them.
Yeah.
So we have to find the flavor, you
Ooh, I
know,
like that.
in yeah,
The flavor.
yeah. Find the flavor in that relationship and try to
Yes.
figure it out. It's like, oh wow, you're here to teach me. How awesome. You know, it's like
Ooh,
yes.
what's your flavor? I love that. What's your flavor?
Yes, be authentic.
Yes.
Yes, instead of trying to compare him, like you were saying, with other men, other, if you're trying to compare your spouse to another person, it's
Right.
like, no, 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 no. Let's
No,
stop,
no, no, no. Keep your eyes on your house. Keep your eyes on what God is doing in your life. And when you start comparing, that actually eliminates the place for gratitude because you're comparing. But keep your eyes on what God is doing with you and your family, and it will keep you grateful. It will always, you will always say, oh, I'm so grateful for this. I'm grateful for my husband. I'm grateful for my children. I'm grateful for what he does every day. I'm grateful that he goes out here to be our protector and our provider. So it will, the spirit of gratitude instead of the spirit of comparison is what you want.
Oh, that is so beautiful. Yes, because when we apply that gratitude, when we practice that gratitude, it leads us to harmony. It leads us to
Yep,
feel that peace.
that's it. Back at harmony.
Yes.
Harmony,
Yeah.
that peace. And that harmony is where you can command a blessing over your marriage, over your house, over your children, and watch God do it. I challenge people to do it for 30 days.
Yes. And another thing that came to my mind as you were talking is like find 5 things you're grateful for
Oh,
in your spouse.
yes, I love it. That's a great starting place. Yes, five
Yes.
things. Instead of naming, remember how you said you had the list of what he didn't do? Look, instead of
Yeah.
writing the list of what he don't, reverse that list.
Yeah.
Change the story and say these are 5 things I'm grateful for.
Yes.
Flip the script. 5 things
Yes.
I'm grateful for.
And you'll begin to feel that harmony. You'll begin to see
Right.
the true blessings
Yes.
that your spouse is here to give you.
That's right. That's right. Because
Ah,
your whole attitude, your mind would change, and then your attitude is going to change about it. And
yes.
then you know what happens when your attitude changes. If you got a better attitude, your whole, you won't be, people will want to be around you and want to be. They won't feel like you sucking on a lemon all the time.
Yes. Yes. You're creating trust right there.
Right, right. So
Yes.
as we can see, it all begins with us.
Yes, that is beautiful. Yes, it begins with us. We
All
have
begins
the
with us.
free will to choose.
That's right. It all begins with us because if we're not together or we're not right, we can't expect our relationships to be right.
That is beautiful. Yes. Thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, thank you for having me. This has been so much fun.
Yes.
So much fun. I have enjoyed myself with you. I really have, Paula.
Oh, you're gonna have to come back. You're gonna have
I
to come
will.
back and
I
I
will.
I usually do like once a month. I'm trying to do a different theme.
Okay.
So maybe you can help us deal with rejection whenever I do the month for rejection.
Oh yeah, I got some stories for you there.
Yes. So our next week, we're going to have a beautiful co-author again as a guest. Is going to share her story, her inspiration, and it's just
Mhm.
going to guide us through this journey of marriage. That it is possible. We just have to be, determined to make our marriage great. We have
That's
to
it.
invest. We have to nurture it and invest. So
That's
thank you, thank you, thank you.
and thank you.
Uh, it's time to go now. Time went by super super fast, and yeah, you're coming back, please.
I will. Anytime you want to have me, I will come back, okay? And
Okay.
thank you for having me so much.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you all, our viewers, our audience today. I hope you found, a word, a phrase, an aha moment that inspires you to nurture your relationship, that inspires you to see a better relationship ahead of you if you're not married yet. So remember that it is within you. You have the ability to give power to your talents. You're the one that gives lives to a life to your dreams. This show can also be heard on Spanglish Radio Network. Check out the programming in spanglishworld.ca for all news and programming. Spanglish World, watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it. Blessings to you all. Thank you so much for being here. Hi, Puerto Rico, Mexico, USA.